Hello everyone, and welcome to the beginning of our grammar curriculum. Let's begin our study of English grammar by examining 5 Chinese sentences. So here we are. Here are our 5 sentences. 他吃鸡肉，明天他会吃鸡肉，昨天他吃了鸡肉，他在吃鸡肉，and 他吃过鸡肉。Now, here is my question for you. What is the verb in these 5 sentences? What is the verb in these 5 sentences? Well, in the first sentence, the verb is 吃. In the second sentence, the verb is also 吃. In the third sentence, it's 吃. In the fourth sentence, it's 吃. And in the fifth sentence, it's still 吃. So in all of these sentences, the verb is 吃. Now, I have a second question for you. What is the subject in these 5 sentences? That is the 主语. What's the subject of these sentences? So, the subject, let's circle that one in blue. In the first sentence, the subject is 他. In the second sentence, the subject is still 他. In the third sentence, it's 他. In the fourth sentence, it's 他. And in the fifth sentence, it is still 他. So the subject in all of these sentences is the same as well. It's 他. Now I have my final question for you. What is the object in these 5 sentences? Well, the object. The object, we'll put a little squiggly red line underneath it. In the first sentence, it is 鸡肉. In the second sentence, 鸡肉, 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 鸡肉. So, here we have something interesting. These 5 sentences, they all have the same subject, that's 他. They all have the same verb, 吃. And they all have the same object, 鸡肉. This brings up a question. If these 5 sentences all have the same subject, verb, and object, are they the same meaning? Do they mean the same thing? So here is my big question for you guys to consider. If the verb is the same, we have it here, 吃, and the subject is the same, 他, and the object is the same, 鸡肉, then what makes these 5 sentences different? Okay? Are they the same meaning? Do they mean the same thing? If they don't, what is different about them? I want you guys to think about this question because we're going to come back to it in a few lessons, but just give it some thought right now. Finally, I have my second question for you guys. Can you translate these into English? That's a little bit more straightforward. So take a minute, do it by yourself, pause this video, and then we will translate them together. Okay, so here are our 5 sentences again. 他吃鸡肉，明天他会吃鸡肉，昨天他吃了鸡肉，他在吃鸡肉，and 他吃过鸡肉. My challenge to you now is translate these into English. Let's begin. So the first one, let's look at 他吃鸡肉. That in English would be he eats chicken. The next one, 明天他会吃鸡肉. Well, that would be tomorrow he will eat chicken. The next sentence, 昨天他吃了鸡肉. That would be yesterday he ate chicken. The fourth sentence, well, that would be he is eating chicken. And the fifth sentence, that would be he has eaten chicken. So here we go. The first sentence, 他吃鸡肉. The best translation is he eats chicken. 明天他会吃鸡肉. That means tomorrow he will eat chicken. Actually, it'd probably be a little better if I put a little comma here after these time words. I think that looks better there. Tomorrow he will eat chicken. 昨天他吃了鸡肉. That would be yesterday he ate chicken. 他在吃鸡肉 would be he is eating chicken. And 他吃过鸡肉 would be he has eaten chicken. Now, as we did before, I want you guys to identify the verb in these 5 English sentences. We always start with the verb. We know from our previous slide that the verb in this first sentence is 吃 and also 吃, 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 吃. So the verb in the Chinese sentences is always 吃. What is the verb in the English sentences? Well, in the first one, the verb is eats. In the second one, it is eat. In the third one, it is ate. In the fourth one, it is eating. And in the fifth one, it is eaten. Now, let's look at the subjects of our sentences. As we've seen before, for the Chinese, the subject is ta, 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 ta. And in English, the subject is he. And then if we look at the object in the Chinese sentences is 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. And in the English, it's chicken, 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 chicken. So nothing too surprising here, except there's one real big difference between the way Chinese does things and the way English does things. And this is what I want you guys to focus on. Look over here on the Chinese side. What is the verb? In all of these sentences, the verb is always 吃. But what about the English side? Is the verb always on the Chinese side over here, the verb is always written the same. You have the little ko and then these marks here. But, and it's always said the same. It's always 吃, first tone. But over here on the English side, that's not the case. Let's take a look at it. In the first word, the first time we see the verb up here in the top, it is eats. But then, when we see the verb the next time, it is eat. Then it is ate, eating, and eaten. So in Chinese, there is only one form of the verb. But in English, on the English side, we see there are at least 5 different versions of the same verb. They all mean the same thing. They all mean 吃, but they can be written in 5 different ways. This here is depending on whether the verb is in the past, the present, the future, ongoing, or complete. This is the biggest, probably the biggest difference between English grammar and Chinese grammar. Chinese is a non-inflected language. That would be non-inflected. That means that words do not change their form. But English is an inflected language. That is that words change their form to give you grammatical information. We'll come back to the idea of inflection later, but this is the basic idea I want you to think about. And now I want to leave you with a question about these 5 different versions of the verb eat. And here is my final question for the lesson that I want to end on. And that is this question right here. How many verb forms does English have? Are there, we saw in the previous that we know that in Chinese there's just 吃, but over on the English translations we had eat, eats, eating, ate, and eaten. So is this it? Are there just 5 forms in English? We know there's at least 5 forms, but are there more? And if there's more than 5 forms, how many? Are there just 5? Are there 10? Are there 100? How many verb forms does English have? I want you to think about this question. Try to come up with your own answer, and then in the next lesson, we will talk about this in more detail.